That morning, no one expected a single act of defiance to change military history. What began as routine training became a moment every soldier on base would remember, and one that would test the difference between following orders and doing what's right. The sun hung low over the Coronado Naval Base, casting long shadows across the training grounds where the Pacific's salt air mingled with the faint scent of diesel from idling Humvees. Petty Officer First Class Marcus Hale stood at attention in his crisp utilities, his boots planted firmly on the dew-kissed gravel. At his side, Rex, his Belgian Malinois partner, sat rigid, ears perked, dark eyes scanning the horizon as if anticipating an unseen threat. The dog's black tactical vest matched Hale's gear, standard issue for the SEAL Team's K9 unit, where every handler and canine operated as a seamless extension of the mission. "Platoon, attention!" The command echoed from Master Chief Harlan Reyes, his voice cutting through the morning chill like a knife. Reyes was a fixture in the unit, broad-shouldered and weathered from 2 decades in special operations, his gaze sharp enough to spot a recruit's hesitation from 50 yards. The platoon snapped to, 30 men and their dogs forming precise lines, the only sounds the creak of leashes and the distant hum of a Blackhawk warming up on the helipad. Hale's focus never wavered. At 34, he was one of the quieter handlers, a man who let his actions speak. He'd deployed with Rex to Afghanistan twice, their bond forged in the dust-choked valleys where the dog's nose had sniffed out IEDs that would have ended patrols. Rex wasn't just a tool, he was Hale's shadow, the one constant in a life of calculated risks and iron discipline. Hale's hand rested lightly on the leash, feeling the subtle tension in Rex's muscles, a silent communication honed over years of drills and deployments. The training exercise was standard, a simulated urban breach in the mock village setup, plywood facades mimicking Afghan compounds under the relentless California sun. Reyes paced the front, clipboard in hand. Objective: clear the structure, neutralize threats, secure the package. Handlers, your K9s lead on scent. No deviations. We move as one. Hale nodded, his mind already mapping the route. Rex's training was impeccable. Detection, apprehension, protection. The dog could differentiate between explosive residues and human fear sweat from 20 meters out. In the field, that loyalty had saved lives, including Hale's own, when Rex had alerted to a hidden sniper nest during a night raid. But here on base it was routine. Commands barked, obstacles cleared, after-action reviews dissecting every second. As the platoon advanced, boots crunching in unison, Hale whispered to Rex, "Easy, boy." The dog's tail gave a single, restrained wag. His focus locked forward. They breached the first building, Hale's team flowing in behind, weapons at low ready. Radio chatter filled the air, crisp, abbreviated, "Clear left." "Clear right." Rex darted ahead, nose to the ground, pausing at a simulated door where a hidden threat waited. "Contact!" Hale called, signaling the all-clear as Rex held his alert stance, a low growl rumbling in his chest. The exercise proceeded flawlessly until the final phase, extraction of the package, a mannequin representing a high-value target or civilian asset. Reyes oversaw from the observation post, his eyes on Hale's group. That's when it started to unravel. As Hale's team reached the extraction point, a new element was introduced, a civilian actor playing a distressed local, scripted to complicate the op. But the actor, a young woman in her early 20s named Elena Ruiz, wasn't following the brief. She was a base contractor, hired for realism, but today her performance veered off script. Instead of the planned passive resistance, she lunged toward Rex, feigning panic, her hands flailing too close to the dog's flank. Rex reacted instinctively, a sharp bark escaping as he shifted to protect mode, his body tensing between Hale and the woman. Hale yanked the leash, pulling Rex back, but the damage was done. "Stand down!" Reyes bellowed over the radio, the exercise grinding to a halt. The platoon froze, eyes turning to the scene. Elena stumbled back, her face pale, clutching her arm as if scratched, though Hale knew Rex hadn't made contact. "That dog almost bit me!" she shouted, her voice carrying across the grounds. Whispers rippled through the ranks. Reyes stormed over, his expression thunderous. "Hale, report!" "Sir," Rex alerted to a perceived threat. Per protocol, he positioned defensively. No contact occurred. Hale's voice was steady, but his grip on the leash tightened. Rex sat calmly now, sensing his handler's calm. Though his eyes flicked warily to the woman, Reyes eyed Elena, then Hale. "This is a training op, not a war zone. Control your animal, petty officer." The words hung heavy, laced with the unspoken weight of chain of command scrutiny. Elena, still shaken, was escorted to medical by a corpsman, muttering about dangerous beasts and filing an incident report on the spot. Back at the kennels after debrief, Hale knelt to unclip Rex's vest, the dog's wet nose nudging his hand in quiet reassurance. The air smelled of straw and oiled leather, the other handlers murmuring in low tones about the glitch in the exercise. Hale ran a hand along Rex's flank, feeling the steady rise and fall of his breathing. "Good work today," he murmured, though doubt gnawed at him. Elena's reaction hadn't felt right, too erratic for a pro, and Rex never erred without cause. That evening, as the sun dipped into the Pacific, Hale reviewed the footage in the ready room, the glow of the screen illuminating his face. There, in the frozen frame, Elena's approach wasn't fear, it was deliberate, her eyes locked on Rex with something sharper than surprise. Hale's jaw set. In the SEALs, loyalty wasn't just to orders, it was to the truth, especially when it came from the one partner who never lied. But speaking up meant challenging the script, the actor, maybe even Reyes. Hale closed the laptop, Rex curling at his feet with a soft huff. The base lights flickered on outside, casting grids of shadow across the concrete. Tomorrow's drill awaited. But Hale knew this was no routine anymore. The chain of command demanded obedience, yet conscience whispered of something deeper. A girl's life, perhaps, hanging on what Rex had sensed but no one else could see. The next dawn broke with the familiar cadence of reveille echoing across the base, pulling Hale from a restless sleep in his barracks rack. The air was thick with the briny tang of the ocean, carried inland on a breeze that rustled the palm fronds outside his window. Rex stirred at the foot of the bed, his paws twitching in a dream chase, a low whine escaping before he settled again. Hale sat up, rubbing the stubble on his jaw, the weight of yesterday's incident pressing like an unpacked rucksack. He clipped Rex's leash with practiced efficiency. The metal snap, a sharp punctuation in the quiet room. They headed out into the grey light, the concrete paths slick from overnight mist. Other handlers emerging with their dogs in tow, German Shepherds and Malinois forming a loose pack toward the training fields. Master Chief Reyes had called for a full unit review at 600, no excuses. Hale arrived early, positioning himself at the edge of the assembly area, Rex heeling perfectly at his side. The platoon formed up under the floodlights, uniforms starched and boots polished, the scent of fresh coffee from the mess tent mingling with the earthy dampness of the grounds. Reyes stood on the low platform, his arms crossed, the lines on his face etched deeper than usual. "Incident yesterday was a deviation," he began, his voice carrying without amplification, each word measured. "Training integrity depends on control, human and canine. Reports are in. We'll address at stand down." Hale's gaze stayed forward, but his mind replayed the footage. Elena's eyes not wide with fear, but narrowed, calculating. Rex's alert hadn't been random. The dog had stiffened at her approach, nostrils flaring as if catching a trace of something acrid, hidden. In the field, that nose had detected Semtex residue through concrete walls. But here, Hale pushed the thought down. Questioning an actor's intent meant questioning the exercise itself, and Reyes tolerated no such ripples in the chain. After review, the unit dispersed to individual drills. Hale took Rex to the scent detection course, a series of buried mock caches in the scrubland bordering the base. The terrain rose gently toward the dunes, where the wind whipped sand against their legs, carrying the faint roar of waves crashing below. "Seek," Hale commanded softly, releasing the leash. Rex bounded forward, nose low, weaving through the low brush with unerring precision. He paused at the third station, digging furiously at a patch of dirt until Hale confirmed the hit, a concealed packet of simulated explosive material. "Good boy," Hale said, rewarding with a firm pat and a treat from his pocket. Rex's tail thumped once, his dark eyes meeting Hale's in that wordless affirmation of trust. But as they worked, Hale's focus splintered. Elena Ruiz's report had circulated overnight, claims of aggression, a request for review of K9 protocols. Whispers among the handlers suggested she was pushing for compensation, maybe even a transfer off-base gigs. Hale had seen her type before, contractors chasing overtime, but this felt personal, laced with an edge he couldn't place. During a water break, he approached Corpman Ellis, the medic who'd checked her out. Ellis was coiling a hose by the aid station, his sleeves rolled up, forearms scarred from field patches. "Petty officer," Ellis greeted, straightening. "Rex holding up?" "Always does," Hale replied, keeping it neutral. "The contractor, Ruiz, she mention anything specific after?" Ellis glanced around, lowering his voice amid the distant barks of other dogs. "Shaken, mostly. Said the dog's growl spooked her bad, like it knew something, but no marks, no real contact. I cleared her for duty." He paused, wiping sweat from his brow. "Odd, though. She kept asking about the unit's history with animals. Deployments, incidents, not standard chit-chat." Hale nodded, filing it away. Rex sat alert beside him, head tilted as if listening. The dog's intuition mirrored his own growing unease. Loyalty like theirs didn't question without cause. Back at the kennels for midday feeding, Hale overheard two trainers discussing Elena's background. A linguistics specialist, brought in for role-play authenticity, but with ties to civilian aid groups. Nothing flagged yet. He fed Rex kibble mixed with ground beef, the dog's jaws working methodically, then brushed his coat, removing the sand that clung like battlefield grit. By afternoon, the test deepened. Reyes summoned Hale to his office in the operations hut, a squat building humming with the low buzz of servers and the scent of stale ink from printers. The room was Spartan, metal desk, flags on the wall, a single window overlooking the motor pool where mechanics revved engines in rhythmic bursts. "Sit," Reyes ordered, gesturing to a chair opposite. Hale complied, Rex lying at his feet with a soft thud, ever vigilant. "Ruiz is escalating," Reyes said, sliding a folder across the desk. "Formal complaint to the contractor liaison, alleges negligence in K9 handling. If it sticks, we're looking at protocol audits, maybe even pulling handlers from rotations." His eyes bored into Hale's. "Your dog's record is spotless, but perception matters. Explain the alert." Hale met the gaze steadily. "Sir, Rex detected an anomaly. Footage shows her approach was non-standard, direct, unscripted. He positioned per training, protect the handler and asset." Reyes leaned back, fingers drumming the desk. "Anomaly or overreaction? We're not in theater, this is controlled. Obey the brief, or we invite scrutiny we don't need." The words carried the subtext of command: fall in line, or risk the unit's rhythm. Hale felt the pull. Duty to the team, to the seamless machine of operations, but conscience tugged harder. Rex's low huff at his feet, a reminder of truths beyond reports. "I reviewed the tape, sir," Hale ventured, voice even. "Her demeanor wasn't fear. If there's more to it, stick to facts, petty officer." Reyes cut him off, closing the folder. Handle your partner. Dismissed. Outside, the sun beat down, turning the gravel to a shimmering haze. Hale walked Rex toward the perimeter trail, the dog's pace matching his own measured stride. The base fence loomed, razor wire glinting, beyond it the vast expanse of beach where off-duty sailors jogged in the surf. Hale stopped at a bench, unclipping the leash to let Rex roam a bit, his form a dark silhouette against the blue. The incident wasn't just a glitch, it was a fracture. Elena's story didn't align, and Rex's sense, that unerring loyalty, pointed to something concealed, perhaps a vulnerability she hid, a secret the dog had pierced without a word. As evening fell, the base quieted, lights winking on in the barracks like distant stars. Hale sat in the ready room again, pulling up more files. Elena's contractor profile, clean but sparse. A single line caught his eye. Prior work with refugee outreach, vanished records from a stateside program. His hand rested on Rex's head, feeling the warmth through the fur. Speaking out meant defying the order to stand down, risking reprimand, maybe worse. But silence, that betrayed the bond, the girl whose life might hinge on what the dog had smelled. Fear not of attack, but of exposure. The radio crackled faintly in the background, a routine check-in. All clear. For now. The third day dawned with a relentless fog rolling in from the Pacific, blanketing the Coronado base in a damp shroud that muffled the usual clamor of morning PT. Hale rose before the bugle, the chill seeping through the barracks window like an uninvited guest. Rex was already awake, pacing the narrow space between the bunks, his nails clicking softly on the linoleum floor. Hale clipped the leash, the familiar weight grounding him as they stepped into the grey haze. The air tasted of salt and wet earth, the floodlights casting hazy halos over the paths where shadowy figures jogged in formation, their breaths visible in the cool air. Hale's mind churned through the night, replaying Reyes' dismissal and the sparse details in Elena's file. He couldn't shake the image of Rex's alert, precise, unprovoked by anything in the script. In the seals, anomalies weren't ignored. They were dissected until truth emerged. But this felt personal, a thread pulling at the fabric of trust. He led Rex to the kennel block first, the chain-link gates rattling in the breeze as he filled the water bowls. The other dogs stirred in their runs, a chorus of whines and tail thumps greeting the routine. Hale checked Rex's paws for abrasions from yesterday's drills, his fingers tracing the rough pads, feeling the dog's steady pulse beneath. By 0700, the unit assembled for weapons quals on the range, the fog lifting just enough to reveal the bermed targets downrange. The sharp crack of M4s punctuated the air, brass casings tinkling on the concrete pads like scattered coins. Hale fired methodically, Rex lying prone beside him, ears flattened against the noise, but eyes fixed on his handler. Between strings, Hale caught sight of Eleanor across the compound, speaking with a liaison officer near the contractor trailers. She wore civilian fatigues, her posture rigid, gesturing animatedly. No scratches marred her arm, as Ellis had noted, but her face carried a pallor that the fog couldn't explain. After quals, Hale volunteered for perimeter patrol, a solo circuit with Rex to clear his head. The fence line wound through scrub and dunes, the sand shifting underfoot like a living thing. Rex ranged ahead, on the long lead, nose working the wind, pausing occasionally to mark a scent post. Hale's radio stayed silent, save for the static hum of bass frequency. He stopped at a viewpoint overlooking the beach, the waves a distant murmur through the mist. There, he pulled out his secure phone, accessing the unclassified contractor database, a low-level pull, nothing that would flag command. Eleanor's profile loaded, linguistics expert, cleared for sim roles, but a gap in her history from 2 years prior, a personal leave with no details. Rex suddenly stiffened, a low rumble building in his throat as he stared back toward the base proper. Hale followed his gaze. Elena, walking alone along a service road, her steps hurried. The dog tugged the lead, insistent. "Easy," Hale murmured, but Rex's focus held, nostrils flaring. Hale recalled the training. Malinois, like Rex, were conditioned for threat detection, but also for anomalies in human baseline, stress pheromones, even medical distress if tuned for it. Had she carried something yesterday? Not explosives, but perhaps illness, hidden to keep her contract. Conscience warred with protocol. Reporting a hunch without evidence meant sidelining himself, inviting Reyes' scrutiny on the unit's readiness. But ignoring it? That betrayed Rex, the partner who'd pulled him from a collapsing wadi in Helmand, nose bloodied but unyielding. Hale clipped the lead shorter and angled toward her path, the fog swallowing their approach. Elena didn't notice until Rex's huff broke the silence, her head snapping up, eyes widening, not in fear this time, but recognition. "Petty Officer Hale," she said, voice clipped, stopping short. She clutched a satchel to her side, the fabric damp from the mist. Rex sat on command, but his gaze bored into her, unwavering. "Ms. Ruiz, walking the perimeter." Hale kept his tone neutral, hands visible at his sides, de-escalation drilled into every interaction. She shifted, glancing at the dog. "Clearing my head. After yesterday, your animal's reaction unsettled me." Her words were measured, but Hale caught the tremor, the faint wheeze in her breath. Rex's ears perked, a subtle lean forward. "He's trained to detect threats," Hale replied, "including those not in the script. You approached off-brief. Care to explain?" Eleanor's jaw tightened, her free hand pressing against her ribs. "It's nothing. Just doing my job." But Rex whined softly, pawing the ground. An alert Hale knew too well from medical demos, where dogs flagged seizures or low blood sugar in handlers. Hale's pulse quickened. "Rex doesn't lie. If he's signaling, it's real. You need medical." She hesitated, the fog thickening around them like a veil. "It's chronic. Asthma. Flares up in stress. Yesterday, during the sim, I was having an attack. Inhaler in my pack, but I couldn't reach it without breaking roll. Your dog smelled it, the panic, maybe the meds." Her voice cracked, eyes dropping. "I didn't want to admit it. Contractors like me, one flag, and I'm out. No more work, no stability." The admission hung between them, raw in the damp air. Hale processed it. Rex hadn't reacted to aggression, but to her distress, the chemical tang of albuterol or cortisol spike. Duty demanded he report medical lapses in training environments, safety first. But compassion saw the woman before him, fighting to hold her ground in a system that valued perfection over frailty. "Protocol says I walk you to medical now," Hale said quietly. "But if it's under control, it's not always." She exhaled shakily, pulling the satchel closer. Inside, Hale glimpsed the inhaler glinting dully. "Last flare nearly killed me off base. Doc said early detection could save lives. Your dog. He saw it when I couldn't." Rex nudged Hale's leg, as if urging. The moral fulcrum tipped. Obedience meant logging the incident, potentially ending her role and exposing the exercise's flaws. Conscience urged protection, for her, for the truth Rex embodied. Hale nodded once. "Off record for now. Get checked quietly. I'll vouch the alert was procedural." Relief flickered in her eyes, a nod of thanks. As she turned away, the radio crackled. "Hale, report to ops, urgent." Reyes's voice edged with command. Hale led Rex back, the fog lifting to reveal the base in sharp relief. Towers, tents, the endless drill of discipline. In ops, Reyes waited with a tablet, footage from security cams queued. Contractors doubling down, claims harassment now, says you cornered her. Witnesses from the road. Hale's stomach tightened. Eleanor hadn't named him, but the system moved fast, ripples turning to waves. "Sir, it's a misunderstanding. She..." "Save it for the log," Reyes interrupted, eyes hard. "This goes up the chain. Public hearing tomorrow. Tribunal style, full unit present. Your silence ends here, petty officer. Speak, or the dog takes the fall." The room felt smaller, the hum of fluorescence amplifying the tension. Hale glanced at Rex, the dog's calm gaze an anchor. For the first time, the quiet SEAL knew he'd have to break his reserve, tell the story of the alert, the hidden struggle, the life Rex had instinctively guarded. Not defiance, but justice, rippling through the ranks like a reform no order could contain. Comment where you're watching from. I want to know how far stories of courage and integrity can reach. The fog had burned off by midday, leaving the Coronado base under a sky of unyielding blue, the sun's glare reflecting off the windshields of parked vehicles in the motor pool. Hale stood outside the operations hut, Rex at his heel, the dog's fur still damp from a quick rinse at the kennels. The air carried the sharp tang of gun oil from the range and the faint, acrid scent of welding torches from the maintenance bays. Hale's utilities felt heavier than usual, the weight of impending scrutiny settling like sand in his boots. Reyes's words echoed, "Speak, or the dog takes the fall." For Hale, silence had always been his armor, a handler's restraint, letting actions and Rex's instincts carry the load. But tomorrow's tribunal demanded more. He led Rex to the training oval, a packed dirt track encircled by low barriers and observation bleachers, where the unit often ran formations under the watchful eyes of instructors. The ground was firm, etched with the imprints of countless drills, the horizon marked by the distant silhouette of the Coronado Bridge spanning the bay. Hale unclipped the leash, signaling Rex to heel as they circled the perimeter. "Stay," he commanded at intervals, testing the dog's focus amid the distractions of passing patrols and the intermittent bark of a sentry dog. Rex obeyed without hesitation, his body language a study in disciplined poise, muscles coiled but still, eyes tracking Hale's every move. Back at the barracks, Hale prepared methodically, laying out his dress blues on the rack, the fabric crisp from the laundry press. The room smelled of polished leather and the faint metallic hint of bootblacking, shared quarters with 3 other handlers whose bunks were neatly made. Photos of deployments tucked into mirror frames. He sat on the edge of his mattress, Rex curling beside him, and reviewed notes on a notepad, key timestamps from the footage, Elena's admission in the fog, the protocols on K9 alerts for non-combat anomalies. Writing it out felt like prepping a mission brief, facts first, emotion restrained. Yet his hand paused, the pen hovering. Speaking publicly meant exposing not just the incident, but the vulnerability beneath, the girl's hidden struggle, Rex's unerring sense that had bridged human frailty and canine loyalty. That evening, the base mess hall buzzed with subdued chatter, the clink of trays and the steam from vats of chili and cornbread filling the air. Hale ate alone at a corner table, Rex waiting outside under the sodium lights, his shadow long across the concrete. Whispers reached him, handlers debating the tribunal, some backing Hale's record, others wary of the contractor's pull. "Reyes is pushing for clean slate," one murmured. "But if Hale pushes back, it's the whole unit under the microscope." Hale pushed his tray aside, the food tasteless, and stepped out into the cooling dusk. Rex rose to greet him, nose pressing into his hand, a silent check-in, warm breath against skin chilled by the breeze off the water. Sleep came fitfully, broken by the low hum of generators and the occasional rotor wash from a late-night helo insertion training. Dawn arrived with the sharp blast of the bosun's whistle, pulling the platoon to assembly in the quadrangle. The air was crisp, dew beading on the grass, the Pacific salt mingling with the earthy scent of dew-kissed turf. Uniforms snapped to attention as Reyes called the formation, his voice steady over the ranks. "Tribunal commences at 0900 Assembly Hall. Full attendance. This is internal, handled with professionalism." Eyes flicked to Hale. A mix of solidarity and curiosity, the chain of command's invisible threads pulling taut. The assembly hall was a utilitarian space, folding chairs in rows, a raised dais with the unit flag and a microphone stand, walls lined with commendation plaques glinting under fluorescent lights. By air rate 50, the platoon filed in, boots echoing on the linoleum, dogs leashed and seated at their handlers' feet in a disciplined semicircle. Hale took a seat near the front, Rex's presence a steadying force, the dog's flank warm against his knee. Elena arrived last, escorted by the liaison officer, her civilian attire subdued, khakis and a blouse, no satchel today. She avoided Hale's gaze, settling in the witness section, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Master Chief Reyes opened proceedings from the dais, his posture ramrod straight, the microphone amplifying his measured tone. This tribunal addresses the training incident of 14th October, allegations of K9 aggression and subsequent contractor concerns. We seek clarity for unit integrity. Ms. Ruiz, your statement. Eleanor stood, voice clear but edged with tension, the room silent save for the faint creak of chairs. During the simulation, the dog, Rex, reacted aggressively to my role as a civilian asset. It growled, positioned as if to attack. I felt threatened, filed accordingly. Later interactions felt like intimidation. Her words landed like spent casings, rolling ripples through the audience, murmurs stirred, quickly quelled by a sharp glance from Reyes. The liaison nodded, then turned to Hale. Petty Officer Hale, your response. Hale rose, heart steady despite the knot in his gut, Rex rising with him in sync. He approached the stand, the microphone cool under his fingers, the weight of 30 pairs of eyes upon him. Public speaking wasn't his arena. Briefings, yes, but this was raw. The quiet SEAL stepping into the light. He cleared his throat, voice even, projecting the calm of a post-mission debrief. Sir, handlers, Ms. Ruiz, Rex's alert was not aggression. Review of footage shows her approach deviated from the brief. Direct, unscripted. Per K9 Protocol 7 Alpha, partners detect baseline anomalies, including human distress signals. He paused, glancing at Eleanor, who met his eyes now, a flicker of understanding passing. Post-incident during patrol, Rex signaled again. Ms. Ruiz disclosed a medical condition, asthma flare during the sim, inhaler residue, stress pheromones. He wasn't threatening, he was protecting. Contractors train for realism, but safety overrides role. I held off reporting to avoid compromising her position, but truth demands we adapt protocols, integrate medical detection for all assets, human or otherwise. The room held its breath, the only sound Rex's soft pant at Hale's side. Reyes leaned forward, expression unreadable. Evidence? Hale nodded to the technician, who cued the footage on a projector, the screen flickering to life with grainy clarity. Elena's approach, Rex's precise stance, no contact, then time-stamped stills from security cams, the fog-shrouded encounter, her hand on her ribs. Rex's nose doesn't err. In deployments it saved patrols from hidden threats. Here it saved a life not from enemy fire, but from silence. Eleanor stood unprompted, voice softer now. He's right. I hid it to keep the contract. The dog sensed it. I withdraw the complaint. Gasps rippled, the liaison scribbling notes furiously. Reyes adjourned for deliberation, the hall emptying into the midday sun, conversations buzzing like radio traffic. Hale clipped Rex's leash, the dog's tail giving a single wag as they exited. Outside, handlers clapped his shoulder, subtle gestures of respect, a nod from Ellis the corpsman. The reckoning had shifted from blame to revelation. Hale's words bridging the gap between duty and conscience. By afternoon, Reyes summoned him back, the ops hut cooler now with fans whirring overhead. Tribunal findings, incident procedural, no fault assigned. But your testimony sparks review. K9 medical integration pilots, contractor health disclosures, mandatory. Reyes extended a hand, grip firm. You spoke when it mattered, petty officer. Units stronger for it. Hale nodded, Rex leaning into his leg. The base hummed on, drills resuming, the distant thump of rotors. But a quiet reform had taken root, loyalty's legacy etched in protocol and trust. Yet Hale knew the story wasn't over. Eleanor's gratitude lingered, a thread to weave into the rank's evolving code. The days following the tribunal settled into a new rhythm on the Coronado base, the kind of quiet shift that military life absorbs without fanfare, subtle as the tide reshaping the dunes. Hale returned to routine patrols with Rex, their boots tracing familiar paths along the fence line, where the Pacific's roar provided a constant underscore to the drills. The air still carried the briny chill of mornings, but now it mingled with a sense of release, the weight of scrutiny lifted like fog under the sun. Handlers nodded to Hale in passing, their greetings laced with unspoken respect, a pat on the shoulder during chow, a shared glance over coffee in the ready room. Rex moved with his usual precision, nose working the wind. But Hale caught the dog's occasional lean into his leg, as if affirming the bond that had carried them through. Reyes wasted no time implementing the changes. By week's end, a memo circulated through the unit's secure channels. Mandatory health screenings for all contractors involved in simulations, with K9 integration for non-combat detection as a pilot program. The ops hut buzzed with briefings, whiteboards scrawled with protocols, scent profiles for common medications, stress indicators calibrated to urban breach scenarios. Hale was tapped to lead the initial training sessions, his testimony cited in the directive as the catalyst. Petty Officer Hale's input ensures we adapt without compromising readiness, Reyes stated during the kickoff, his voice steady over the assembled platoon, the scent of dry erase markers sharp in the air. Elena Ruiz stayed on base, her role adjusted to advisory. Linguistic support for scenario scripting, no more frontline acting until cleared. She approached Hale during a midday break near the kennels, the chain-link fences rattling softly in the breeze off the bay. Rex sat alert between them, his dark eyes tracking her movements without tension. "I owe you," she said simply, her inhaler clipped visibly to her belt now, a concession to transparency. "That day in the fog, I was scared, not of the dog, but of losing everything. Your words at the tribunal, they gave me a way forward." Hale nodded, hands in his pockets, the gravel crunching under his boots as he shifted weight. Rex saw it first. We follow his lead. No more needed saying. The exchange was brief, mission-focused, sealing an alliance born of mutual vulnerability. She joined the pilot sessions voluntarily, demonstrating inhaler residues for Rex to scent, her voice calm as she praised the dog's hits. "Good alert," she'd say, tossing a treat under Hale's watchful eye. The routine forging trust across lines, contractor and SEAL, human and canine. Word of the incident spread beyond the unit, filtered through official channels to the broader naval special warfare community. At the monthly command review in San Diego, Hale was called to brief higher brass, Rex at his side in the conference room, where polished oak tables gleamed under recessed lights and the hum of projectors filled pauses. He spoke economically, sticking to facts, the alert, the disclosure, the reforms. Admirals nodded, one jotting notes on a pad, the air thick with the scent of fresh briefing packets and strong coffee. "This model's potential is clear," the senior officer remarked, his baritone echoing slightly. "Loyalty like that, human or otherwise, strengthens the chain." Hale's name appeared in unclassified after-action reports, anonymized but emblematic, a case study in moral courage under protocol. Back on base, the transformation rippled through mentorship. Younger handlers sought Hale out during evening kennel checks. The straw-scented runs, alive with the soft snuffles of resting dogs. "How do you know when to speak up?" one asked. A fresh-faced petty officer named Torres, his Malinois pup, nosing at Rex's flank in playful deference. Hale paused, brushing sawdust from his sleeves, the fluorescent bulbs casting long shadows across the concrete. When silence betrays the mission. Rex doesn't hesitate on a scent. We learn from that. Sessions evolved into informal clinics, Hale demonstrating alert responses, emphasizing the handler's role in interpreting beyond orders. Reyes observed from the doorway once, arms crossed, a rare nod of approval before turning away. Elena's progress mirrored the unit's. Her flares stabilized with the added scrutiny, and she confided in Hale during a joint demo on the training oval, the packed dirt warm underfoot as the sun dipped toward the horizon. "First clear medical in years," she said, exhaling steadily after a mock sim. Rex lay nearby, panting contentedly, his vest unbuckled. Hale clipped it back on with practiced hands. The system's learning too, one truth at a time. She smiled faintly. The weight of hidden struggle eased, her role now part of the legacy, a civilian voice in military precision. As months turned, Hale's quiet reserve softened into quiet authority. He earned a commendation, pinned during a low-key ceremony in the quadrangle, the Pacific breeze carrying the faint chime of the bell tower. Rex sat proudly at attention, the medal's reflection dancing on his coat. No speeches, just Reyes' firm grip and the platoon's disciplined salute, boots snapping in unison. Hale felt the shift. No longer just a handler, but a symbol, the seal who spoke for the unspoken, turning a single alert into institutional reform. In the end, the base carried on, reveille at dawn, rotors thumping overhead, the endless cadence of discipline. But in the kennels at dusk, with Rex's head on his knee and the stars pricking the velvet sky, Hale knew the true measure. Loyalty's quiet echo rippling through ranks, saving not just one girl, but the soul of the service itself. Subscribe for more stories of loyalty, courage, and justice within the ranks. Thank you for watching the case of the SEAL never spoke in public until he told the story of his dog and the girl who lived. See you in the next one. In the shadow of the flag, a handler's whisper to his dog becomes the command that reshapes us all.